This podcast is brought to you by Most Valuable Podcasts, leading the league in podcasting entertainment.
Hello, football fans, and welcome to the Onside Kick. My name is Ricky Widmer, and as always, I'm joined by the Mark Weber.
Dub them ease.
And we are here today it's another great podcast because I can say it's going to be a great podcast whenever we have a mock draft reaction to go over.
Yeah, you love them.
I do. It's my favorite time of the year in the NFL. Well, okay. Playoffs are my absolute favorite because that's the kind of fun. It's like the last ending of the season into playoffs are my favorite. The Super Bowl is the best. But of the offseason, this is my jam because I get to take the college players that I watched this past year and finally get to talk about them on this podcast.
Yeah, you know, it's a good time. It's a fun time. It's an exciting thing because it's the one time, besides maybe week one, where there's just so much optimism and hope that anything can happen. Any ship can be, turned and sailed the right direction finally. Maybe this year the Browns won't be the factory of sadness,
Maybe, if the trend of the last 2 years keeps up, Tennessee will do well enough to be almost outside the top 10 because the Bucs are 9 this year.
Yeah.
And next year's number 1 could be Cleveland if the trend holds true of number 2 becoming number 1.
Hopefully. I think... No, I got nothing for the Cleveland Browns. The Cleveland Browns, the problem is they just miss. They whiff so badly. And you got the Wolverine, Jackman, in here. Maybe some ships will be righted.
The guy from Down Under.
Yeah, he's going to go get...
Can he right the ship?
He's
going to get Deadpool?
That he can go out there and get a Red Rocket 2.0.
Red Rocket, kind of like the red costume. If you saw Deadpool, they made a lot of Wolverine jokes. So maybe he just needs to find his Deadpool. But we're going to look at the mock draft today of Mel Kiper Jr. And I was thinking about this. And really, if you think about our podcast, for MVP, you're basically the Mel Kiper, and I'm basically the Todd McShay.
Sure.
And the reason why I say that is when I see out of the two, Mel Kiper and Todd McShay is more of the college football savvy of the two, where Mel Kiper knows what he's talking about, but Mel Kiper will tell you, okay, how does this NFL team fit with this prospect? Whereas Todd McShay can tell you days and days about just the college prospect alone. We're going to be looking at Mel Kiper, so this is your guys' mock draft. And the big thing that I notice is the biggest surprise isn't that Joey Bosa fell to number 6. Maybe it's not a big surprise to me because in my 2.0 I had him falling at 6 to the Ravens. However, the biggest surprise is DeForest Buckner, the first DE, and he's off the board at number 3 to the Chargers.
Yeah, I guess it kind of goes into, if you really think that DeForest Buckner is the better of the two, then it just makes sense because then you're just plug and play. You're plug and play with these two players because if it's not him, typically in most mock drafts, it's Joey Bosa or it's Tunzel. If Tunzel was not taken first overall, it's just basically one of these three guys because the situation is you have these top 3 players essentially in the draft, and I'm putting quarterback X as the middle one, whoever the Cleveland Browns decide to take.
The factor of sadness.
Yes, they're probably going to take somebody. It's just a matter of who that's going to be, and then it's just whoever's left, whoever the Tennessee Titans don't take, essentially. Now, I don't necessarily think I would say DeForest Buckner is the better of these two. He's an interesting size. He's an interesting specimen out there. Maybe you're hoping he can be like a freak athlete, J.J. Watt style kind of guy who really just kind of single-handedly makes an impact on this team. And some people do want to say that Joey Bosa is a little overrated, but I don't know, man. I don't know. The man when you just watch him play, he's pretty dominant. And that Ohio State team, I just trust Urban Meyer. I trust Urban Meyer so much when it comes to creating these guys. Maybe not for my quarterback. Maybe I don't want to draft Cardale Jones out there in like round 3, round 4. But when it comes to the rest of these guys, I can trust Urban Meyer to get me a player who's ready to play on my NFL team.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, looking back at just a frame of reference, Todd McShay's 2.0, he basically had with Kiper and McShay, they're basically flipped on the Chargers and the Titans. The Titans go at Bosa in McShay's, so then the Chargers go with Tunsil. And just like Mel Kiper says right away, he goes, if Tunsil's still available here, the Chargers would have a tough time passing on him. Here's the thing I think of, and this kind of goes into my 2.0. Do the Chargers really go defense here? Let's say everything holds the form with the top two that Mel Kiper says. Tunsil goes to Tennessee, quarterback X. It doesn't matter which quarterback because the Chargers aren't going to take a quarterback. So we'll do the same thing you did. Quarterback X goes to the Browns. Do the Chargers really go defensive end, or do they say, hey, you know what? Phillip Rivers is on the latter half of his career. He doesn't have much more time than he doesn't have a lot of time is what I'm trying to say with the team.
And you're hoping that you're not going to be in this spot again.
Do we go out there, get him a weapon? Because I know Keenan Allen's coming back from injury, hopefully at the beginning of next season. But the wide receivers after him underperformed, didn't do well. So in my mind, the Chargers have to say, okay, we can address the defense later. Let's go ahead and get Phillip, someone else to throw to. Boom, Treadwell, you're on the board. Let's get you.
But they're not. It's not that they're drafting a defensive player. It's that they're drafting the best player available. Mm-hmm. That's got to be the logic here. And yeah, you could do great getting a guy like Treadwell, the best wide receiver, out there, who for some reason doesn't want to run at the combine, but he's the best guy there. Now, he would be the best wide receiver, but I think it's a bit of a reach. I mean, yeah, your team needs him, but the Chargers have been disappointing in pretty much all aspects. It's not just that they don't have a guy to throw the ball to. This team just couldn't do much at all. The San Diego Chargers need help, as much help as they can get. They were one of the worst teams, only 4 wins. They couldn't run the ball. They couldn't score points. Their passing offense was fine when it comes to yardage. They just couldn't actually convert that into anything worthwhile. So I think really anything you can get is a good bet. And to go for the best player on the board, whether you think it's DeForest Buckner, whether you think it's Joey Bosa, I think you have to do it, because these are freak athletes that we're just putting so far ahead of other people. And you're lucky that the Cleveland Browns are going to take a quarterback in this scenario. You're lucky that they're not going for the second best player on the board, and they're allowing you to take that person instead.
I mean, it's let's throw it out there. I'm not betting on. If I was a betting man, I wouldn't put my money on this, but there could be a chance Hugh Jackman, and yeah, I'm calling him Hugh Jackman because he's the Wolverine. There's a possibility he could say, hey, you know what, guys? Let's make everyone think we're going to go with a quarterback, and then pull the old switcheroo where they go ahead and say, okay, boom, fuck it, Bosa.
Yeah.
You're the guy. And then with that first pick of the second round, basically 32 overall, because the Patriots don't have their pick, then go with, okay, boom, there's our quarterback right there. We'll just get him right at the beginning of the second round.
And to kind of put this for Mel Kiper's mock draft, at least, he has Laquan Treadwell, who we've been talking about, at 15.
I don't agree with that.
That's low.
Yeah, I mean, now, necessarily, the Cowboys, right now, I mean, a lot can change. I mean, it's only the 2.0.
Yeah.
But now,
they're probably okay when it comes to wide receiver.
I'd agree that they're going to go quarterback. Jacksonville will probably go defense. Ravens will probably go BPA, because they're a team, much like the Cowboys and Chargers were, they're hoping not to be here next year. However, that 49er team, it's right there. 49ers,
I mean, there are
Dolphins.
so many things that the 49ers need.
The 49ers, I could see 49ers going with Treadwell, but let's say he doesn't go to the Niners. The Dolphins, they're a team we're sitting at going, okay, does Treadwell go here? And the Dolphins could make that push, because they could say, hey, you know what? Let's get Tannehill that weapon.
Tannehill needs help for something.
Gase, the new head coach there, offensive-minded, could say, hey, let's have him be the number one to Ryan Tannehill. The Buccaneers probably would pass on Treadwell because they still got Mevins, unless they think that Mike Evans and Winston
I don't know if I would
gonna...
consider Mike Evans the same talent level, though, as Laquan Treadwell.
Well, I'm just saying he's a proven talent.
I'm just saying that for Tampa Bay, you got that young quarterback. I don't think you should overlook a guy like Laquan Treadwell if he's there.
You know who's the one team, though, in the top 10 that if Treadwell falls to them, they would be the stupidest team to pass him?
Talking about the Giants?
The Giants. Could you imagine OBJ on one side, Laquan Treadwell on the other?
It's deadly.
Over. Game
it's
over.
deadly.
Just let Eli throw the ball. You don't need a running back at that point.
Their passing offense last year was already awesome.
Yeah, just give him another weapon. Just give him another one.
And this is a team that, scored tons of points. You just can't stop. This is going to be like when the Chicago Bears had Alshon Jeffrey and Brandon Marshall. This is what I would love to see that.
That's exactly what it could be, is the exact same thing. Because, Treadwell's a guy looking at, he's 6'2", 210 pounds.
Yeah.
So he's not the shortest guy out there, and that's the pick that, fuck the Rams. The Rams don't know what they're doing. We're going to get to them later in the podcast. It's the Giants to where if Treadwell's there, go get him. Just get him and have OBJ and Laquan Treadwell for, I hate that we have to do this, but we got to call him equal Manning now to throw to.
I know. It's upsetting that he's equal Manning now. Really is disappointing.
Don't worry, he'll get one next year, and then he'll be better Manning again.
We saw his face. He was so disappointed.
Well, now he's equal Manning.
Yeah. It was a rough day for him. It really was.
Would you be happy being equal Weber in the Weber household?
No, it'd be very disappointing.
I feel like, I don't know about you. I feel like with me and my household, I am I am better Widmer. So for me, I know what Eli's feeling. Being better Widmer, being better Manning, feels pretty good.
And you can confidently say this because you know that your sister would never listen to this podcast.
She would never listen, and she will probably never know that I said that.
So tweet
about
at her. I don't know her Twitter, but tweet at her.
She has a Twitter.
Let's get her a Twitter.
Is that weird that I don't that me and my sister don't follow each other on Twitter? Do siblings do that? Is that
I follow my sister on Twitter.
Yeah, I don't even know if my sister has a Twitter. Let's put it that way.
She probably does.
Yeah, she probably does. She has a Facebook and everything, but. Enough about my sister.
Let's continue talking about Ricky's sister for a little bit longer,
talk
actually.
About the mock draft, though, where...
Everybody in the comment section demand more topics about Ricky's sister.
They have already started typing as soon as...
They should.
...brought up sister. But, with Bosa, if he falls to the Ravens are going to go with him. Because, like I said, the Ravens are BPA, but then next pick. We mentioned if Treadwell's there, I said they could go on. But what about the Niners? What do you think the Niners... absolutely need at this point in time?
Well, the Niners need a lot of things. That's the problem. The Niners are a team that is pretty much at the bottom for a reason. They're not 1-15 bottom, Ricky Widmer, but they're
close.
They're pretty
they still
bad.
Suck.
For me, actually, the best situation for the San Francisco 49ers is if Treadwell is there, because this team could not score any points. They couldn't score points. If you're not going to be scoring, if you're not going to be passing the ball and getting yardage, that's awful. Your defense at least was average-ish. They were at least average-ish. But that offense was terrible. You're probably going to have a new quarterback. You're probably going to need that new quarterback to have somebody to throw the ball to. At least you can give a nice target that it doesn't really matter if it's a journeyman, doesn't matter if it's a young rookie, doesn't matter if it's some guy that really should be a backup. He's got a target. He knows where that ball is going, and the whole offense can essentially be built around making that happen. This is the best case scenario for the 49ers because if you're not going to be able to go best player available, which 49ers might not be able to do that, but fortunately they're in the top 10, so all these players are going to be good. You got to do something that helps out your offense because your offense is terrible.
Well, and let's be honest. We all know that the 49ers, their biggest need, according to NFL.com, if you look at their draft order, just the needs by each team in the draft, the top need is quarterback, especially the moment you said Kaepernick, we could trade Kaepernick. He wants to go to New York and play with the Jets. However, at this spot, they could have taken Lynch in Kiper's draft, but Lynch didn't go anywhere. He fell out of the entire first round for Mel Kiper. And I mean,
But the weird thing is, that's kind of a thing that a lot of people are suddenly jumping on the bandwagon. Not for any real reason either. People are just kind of jumping on the bandwagon that he might fall.
The only way I could see him falling out of the first round is if he gets passed up by the Los Angeles Rams. I almost said St. Louis Rams. Apparently, I'm like ESPN and I haven't changed my shit
They still don't know.
But unless he falls past the Rams, because Detroit, they got Stafford. Ryan is with the Falcons. Luck with the Colts. The Bills might, but no, they're going to stick with Tyrod. The Jets can handle a journeyman or trade for Kaepernick. The Redskins depends on, I mean, they'll franchise tag Kirk Cousins, but that could be a possibility, but I don't see them taking quarterback. Houston will wait till the second round. Then you have the playoff teams, Bridgewater, Dalton, Big Ben, Wilson, quarterback, all the way through to where maybe if he gets past 15, there are two possible spots. Like I said, Redskins and Texans. But if he gets past the Rams, then I could say, okay, he'll fall out of the first round.
Sure, unless one of these teams really just goes, nope, this is our guy of the future, and we gotta, get Big Ben's
the Bills could
next
do
guy
that.
or something like that.
The Bills could do that, but Rex Ryan has his brother, and both defensive-minded Ryans are going to say, hey, let's go for it. Let's get defense.
Yeah, they're on a mission
A mission from God.
something like that, to be the burning dumpster, just the burning garbage truck rolling down the street or something like this. Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see what happens with them. I don't know. I feel like we're not exactly in the time of every single team drafts a quarterback if they possibly need a quarterback in the first round. We learned our lesson when certain people got drafted who had no right being drafted in the first round. Well, yeah, Brandon Whedon's his whole own story.
Johnny Manziel,
I wouldn't even say Johnny Manziel. I'm saying more of like the years closer to Brandon Whedon where we were drafting quarterback upon quarterback.
You know what year makes the perfect sense? The Jake Locker, Christian Ponder draft, where Locker went off. I remember the Vikings were going to take Locker. Locker goes off the board. Oh shit, we need a quarterback. That's how we got handed Christian Ponder. I'm like, no. At the time, I'm like, no. Wait for Colt McCoy. Let's be honest. If I would have taken Colt McCoy over Christian Ponder, every single one of you out there would have went, they both suck. So, I mean, I guess you're okay.
Yeah.
I mean, we didn't have to take Christian Ponder when we did. That was probably the stupidest move.
What's Christian Ponder up to nowadays?
I know he went to Oakland, and then he married Samantha Ponder.
Yeah, I thought he married her while he was with your team.
Yeah, I know, but that's probably the best thing he's done since, I don't think he's in the NFL anymore. I don't think so.
He ended up on the Denver Broncos at one point.
He did.
But I don't think he was there for the Super Bowl, unfortunately.
No, he wasn't. Thank God he didn't get a Super Bowl. But, I mean, back to the original team that this all started with.
Yeah, he got waived in December.
Okay.
Just want to put that out there.
The Niners, here's what I think they could do. Yeah, Mel Kiper has them going with Miles Jack, linebacker out of UCLA. But I feel like if Treadwell's off the board, or if they say, you know what, we're not going to go with Treadwell, they're either going to take quarterback, which will probably be Lynch, or Chip Kelly. To me, I feel like he may do the same thing he did in Philly, where he goes, okay, first year, I need an offensive lineman. And he goes ahead and he drafts an offensive lineman.
He could. There'll be some available. He
could go with Ronnie Stanley, who Mel Kiper has going right after the 49ers.
Yeah, I just really, when it comes to the San Francisco 49ers, they got a lot that they need to fill. So really, you're in one of those unfortunate good situations where it doesn't matter. Whoever you take, it's a good pick because you really need pretty much everything. I think if they do go with a guy, yes, you could use a linebacker, sure. But if you have that first-round pick and it's a guy on the defense, I'm going to sit there and go, but our offense was like one of the worst offenses in the entire NFL. And we are supposedly having this real, mastermind of an NFL / college offensive quarterback, or not quarterback, offensive coach here. and you're going to go for a linebacker. All right, I guess we'll expect some more pedestrian offense again. I don't know. I wouldn't be excited about that. But like I said, you're in a fortunate situation, which is unfortunate, that, hey, whatever you take, it's going to be an improvement over last year.
You know what would be funny in my mind? It was 2013, by the way, that was Chip Kelly's first draft with the Eagles. The offensive tackle they did take 4th overall, which isn't that far from where the Niners are now. They took Lane Johnson out of Oklahoma.
Yeah.
The next pick by the Lions in that draft was Ziggy Ansah. Ended up being a Pro Bowler in his short career so far. It would be funny to me as if at 7, Chip Kelly goes, you know what? We need an offensive tackle. I'm going with Ronnie Staley. Then the Dolphins go, fuck it. We're just going to go Miles Jack. And whatever defensive player at 8, and whatever defensive player they take becomes a Pro Bowler.
You just want to see Chip Kelly back in college.
Yeah, or Chip Kelly whiff on 2 straight back-to-back first drafts with his team because, yeah, like you said, back to college. And I mean, the Giants, we talked about them. Mel Kiper had them going with Noah Spence. This is a kid that I mentioned after the Senior Bowl on the Primetime podcast. This is a kid we could see climb up draft boards, especially this week. And I say this week because it's Combine week. And I know we mentioned Treadwell's not going to be running. But to me, this is the more like it was, 2 years ago when Michael Sam was in the draft? It was the same thing when Michael Sam was in the draft, where did anyone really care about what he was going to do on the field at the Combine? No, it was what he was going to say in the interviews. Or Manziel coming out of college. What are you going to say in the interviews? This is a kid coming out of Eastern Kentucky, but some of you, if you've seen my mock drafts, you should know he also was with Urban Meyer and OSU before getting kicked off that team. Character issues are a big thing that NFL teams look for and stay away from. Lovie Smith, we have joked about on many podcasts, about just avoiding guys that have character issues. This is a guy, like I said, this is going to be an important week for him. He's got to answer all the questions right, because can he play on the field? You're damn right he can. However, if that team has that one thought of, you know what, I don't feel confident with this guy, that's what he's got to answer. You can throw Kemdichi in the same boat.
Oh, for sure. And you notice he's
where you had him in your first one.
Yeah, it's almost like I knew something, But you never want to get that phone call from your future GMs asking you, hey, did your fellow teammates come to your 21st birthday party? You don't want that question being asked.
Okay, draft
My
day.
dad was watching that the other day, actually, and I was like, is it draft day? It is draft day. What do you know?
It was a good movie.
It was fun. They had no understanding of how the draft works, but
really
sure.
know the draft process. I mean, that trading scene, best scene in a football movie, but I'm like, that's not how the draft works.
Like, you guys literally had zero understanding of how this works, but that's fine. It was fun. Because
it's a movie, yeah.
It was fun to watch. Much like Deadpool would never possibly be able to happen. I enjoy watching it.
Yeah, it was a great movie. Great movie. If you haven't seen it, go ahead and see it. Unless you're not allowed to see a rated R movie, then don't go see it.
Yeah, don't be that guy. All right, don't be that guy.
But with Spence and Kemdichi, to get back onto them, do you think either of these two? I mean, Spence right now.
Honestly, I think it's a little. I think it's a little high. I think those character issues come back.
Maybe after the Combine, like if he had a good interview and teams were like, okay. Cool, we can put what happened 2 years behind us, then maybe.
It's premature.
A little bit.
I would say it's a little premature.
To me, I feel like right now, though, because of, do they both have the physical talent? Yes. But just of how much time has passed between the incidents, Kemdichi, he's on the down. Noah Spence is kind of on the up. The way I would describe it is it's kind of like Shane Ray, Randy Gregory. Kemdichi could most likely be the Randy Gregory, fall the furthest. Noah Spence, 10's a little high for me, but he could be the Shane Ray. Still going to be a first rounder. However, where is he going to fall? That's the question.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. The Combine's going to tell us a lot. It really will. And I think these type of players just are those guys who their agent is telling them, lay low. He's buying them all the video games in the world, buying them tons of movies. He's going, here, you ever watch Friday Night Lights? You should watch Friday Night Lights. It's a great show. Here, I bought it for you. Go watch it. You know, maybe you should read all the Harry Potters. You should read them all.
All the Harry
You should read all 7 of them. They're doing whatever they can to keep these guys in their house, in their room, not getting into trouble, not causing more problems, because the combine is the time you can turn it around. After that combine, anything that happens, you're done. You know, that's the free fall at that point.
What about the Houston Texans? And kind of Mel Kiper, between his first and his second, he kind of did a little bit of a 180 in my mind. And the reason why I say that is he had Ezekiel Elliott, who running back Ohio State. He originally had him going to the Broncos at 29 at the time. And it's like, okay, I can see what you're saying. Maybe the Texans pass on a running back, even though I saw Zeke early on as like, that's the guy.
He's the guy they want.
He's the guy that you want to replace Arian Foster. I'll be honest, in my 2.0, your 2.0 is going to come out. We're doing it a little bit weird this year, where we're following Mel Kiper and Todd McShay's last year's schedule. So my 3.0 will come out before your 2.0. I know it's ass backwards. We'll fix it next year. But in my 2.0, Zeke was the high riser in mine. I had him top 10 pick to the Giants. Now Mel Kiper has him to the Texans. Is this really where we see Zeke, or is this just the beginning for his rising and his Ricky being Nostradamus right now because I had him at 10 and number 2?
No, I think you should calm yourself down a little bit, Ricky.
Remember, I do have the kiss of death.
The only team I really think could possibly go and try and grab him would be like the Colts or the Lions. You know, one of these teams I think is the highest he could possibly go.
The Lions just took Amir Abdullah last year.
They did. They definitely did. But at the same time, they did just let somebody else go. So they have room on the roster. It's just, I don't see him going that high. And the problem for the Colts is the Colts just whiffed on a guy, Trent Richardson, not too long ago, and then Frank Gore. So do they really trust that, you know, we're going to go to the draft? Do they want to try something different? Get one of these fresh young guys out of college? Not that Trent Richardson was that old. But, you know, I just don't see it. And if it doesn't go to the Colts, I really think it is the Texans. And if the Texans, for some reason, pass, you know, you might be right with the Denver Broncos, as we were talking about just a little bit ago. If Matt Forte doesn't somehow end up in Seattle, maybe the Seattle Seahawks can try and grab him. I don't know. You know, they don't really have a huge need at the running back position, but they definitely have a little bit of a hole there. I can't imagine Ezekiel Elliott climbs all the way to the top 10. Running backs just don't really go in the top 10 that much anymore. You know, I don't know. Mid to late round is where I got Ezekiel Elliott.
So, and I mean, with Zeke, the reason why I had him go up to 10 in mine was it was just one of those things where I'm like, you know what? The Giants could just say, fuck it. Let's get a guy behind Eli because we need a solid run game. However, like I mentioned before, if Laquan Treadwell falls, sorry, Zeke, you're not going. Let's go with this guy that we can put on the opposite side of OBJ. The one thing I will say I didn't mention was Kiper had, I like how he had Wentz to the Texans. He was kind of on that bandwagon of like, okay, this is a guy that could rise. Because in McShay's, his 1.0 had him to the Cardinals. Now Wentz is all the way at the top.
Yeah, he's number 2.
And now it's like, okay, now let's bump Ezekiel Elliott in there. You know what pick I don't like at all?
What's that?
My Viking pick. I don't like Cody Whitehair out of the guard out of Kansas State. I get it. We need to fix the offensive line. We do. However, is that really our top need? Is that really the need where I'm saying, okay, go ahead and take an offensive tackle in our first round? I don't like it. I will say over and over and over that I feel the Vikings' best pick in the first round, wide receiver, no matter what. You draft a wide receiver. You go with a guy that can help Teddy Bridgewater, because we talk about Teddy Bridgewater needing to improve. Oh, the biggest thing that we need to see from Teddy next year is improvement. Well, how about giving him people to throw to? Mike Wallace didn't work. We figured that out.
Greg Jennings, remember
Greg
Jennings?
Jennings didn't work. Stephon Diggs, he worked last year. We'll see how he progresses into year number 2, but it's like, come on.
Gotta have some time to make those throws, though.
Like, if we take Whitehair, it's going to be one of those things where, like, I go, okay, he's an okay pick, but God, do I hate this pick. It's going to be like, you want to know what I compare it to? It'll probably be when me and you didn't like the Tony Snell pick for the Chicago Bulls way back when.
I don't know about that.
Because me and you didn't like that pick.
No, we didn't like it.
Roasted for it, and I feel like some Viking fans will be like, yeah, we need to upgrade the offensive line, but I'd be like, we need a wide receiver. That's what we need.
Yeah, I don't know. I gotta have time to throw that ball. You really need time to throw that ball. Wide receiver would be great. It would be very helpful. It would make that offense quite a bit more dangerous. But, you know, I don't think you're making a bad decision if you go and improve the offensive line. Because like you said, that offensive line needs improvement. And it's a very... Trust somebody from Chicago, Ricky. Fixing the offensive line is a lot more difficult than it sounds.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's not as bad as
We're still in a work in progress.
It's not as bad as when... but how did Gabe Karimi work out when you took him so late in the draft?
I don't know. I don't know who he is. He's not on this team anymore.
He's not on the team anymore. You traded him to Tampa. There's 2 last things I want to talk about with this draft. The first one being at number 11, Chicago, taking Jalen Smith, linebacker, Notre Dame. You're the Bears fan. What do you think about Kiper's pick for the Bears?
First of all, I want to give a shout out to Gabe Karimi, currently a free agent. He's available. You can get him if you want him.
You did trade him to Tampa. That's the last deal
we did. Now he's gone. Yeah, but you could grab
gone.
him if you want. He's available. He's probably cheap.
I'll pass on Gaby, the Wisconsin alum.
You know, I mean, these mock drafts, it's unfortunate as a Chicago Bears fan because they're not exciting. They're not fun because it's just the same two players all the time. If it's not Jalen Smith, then you might get Miles Jack if he's available.
If he falls in this one, Kiper has him going sooner rather than later.
And that's basically it. I mean, those are the only guys who are available. At an earlier time, you might have had someone say Laquan Treadwell. The Bears will grab him just because the Bears showed a little bit of interest, basically scare tactic into Alshon Jeffrey.
That would be a great story, though. The guy from Crete Monee, from Crete, Illinois, getting to come and play for his Illinois team.
That'd be wonderful, but it's not going to happen.
Last thing I want to mention before we move on to the Jets, though, is the Kansas City Chief pick. This is one where I saw it, and me as an Illinois fan went, what the fuck, Mel? Like, are you serious? Because don't get me wrong, Jihad Ward, I love Jihad Ward. He was one of our better defensive players this last year. But I look at it and I go, really? You really think that Ward is first-round talent ready? I mean, if I would have put that in my last mock draft, everybody in the comment section would have been like, "Well, Ricky, calm down. Let's calm down now." He'd be like, "Illinois player didn't do that well." Just to give you guys a little bit of history from Illinois, the last player to be drafted in the first round, I'll give you 2 because they came in the same exact draft. 26th overall to the Houston Texans, Whitney Marsalis, outside linebacker. And then 4 picks later, he is now a free agent, but I believe he was drafted by the Kansas City Chiefs. He was with the Chiefs, then went to the Niners. Was drafted by the Niners, then went to the Chiefs. I had that backed up. A.J. Jenkins. Those are the last 2 first-round picks Illinois has had. And that was 4 years ago.
Yeah, they don't produce.
Do you really think Illinois is going to get a first-round pick this year? let alone it be 28.
And I like that in his description. We don't go into his descriptions too much, but the last thing he says is, could be coached into a truly special player.
Yeah, and I bet he could. I loved Ward. Let's be honest. He was one of the Fighting Illini's better defensive players. Like, when I watched games on defense, he was the one that was like, oh, thank you, Jihad. Thank you. And he was one of our junior transfers from 2 years ago that came over and really kind of, let's be honest, Illinois sucks, but he kind of...
Yeah, they're bad.
He made the defense better than what it was, and he's got the intangibles. He's a durable player. The only thing I would kind of say he needs to work on more is his pass rush ability. He's a guy that he's good versus the run. He's versatile. He has the motor, but it's that pass rush that he'll just need to tweak a little bit, and he'll need some coaching. Does Andy Reid take him first round? I don't think so. Maybe second round at the highest for Jihad. I don't know, though. He could have a great pro day and shock people, but